Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I have some information coming out for you. We're going to be talking about defense spending in this video. So, as we know that many countries in Europe are starting to increase their defense spending, we also just had some word that China is upping their defense spending. They're boosting theirs by like 7% of their national budget. All right. And then we know for sure that Russia, their defense spending is at like 7% of their national budget right now, or 7% of their GDP, excuse me. So they're spending a lot of money on wartime operations. All right. And also, we do know as well that North Korea is increasing their defense spending as well. They're ramping up their operations to go to war against South Korea and the United States right now. Okay. So according to this article we're going to be going over in just a moment, British ministers are urging their government to increase defense spending to 2.5% of GDP. So NATO calls for, on average, about 2%. That's the target that they want countries to hit. Many countries are not doing 2% of GDP. Many of them in Europe are doing like 1%, some less than 1%. Um, but these two ministers that came out here, they're urging the government to increase to 2.5% of GDP. Well, why is that? There's lots of talk here about potential war with Russia, and Russia's obviously in a prime position right now to go to war, or very soon if they wanted to. Okay, they've got all their operations going. They have their defense spending very high. All right. And a lot of countries in Europe are not prepared to go to war should that happen. So the UK wants to get prepared right now. And many countries have been calling for this. Defense ministers are coming out from multiple European nations telling their country and their citizens to get ready for war. Okay. Something's coming here in the next probably 5 to 10 years. Something big is building up here and a potential for war very soon. All right. So we did have Rishi Sunak, Prime Minister, coming out as well and warning countries to increase their military spending before Putin makes you pay the price, is what he said. That Putin will make you pay the price, just like Ukraine, if you're not prepared to defend your country. And these ministers are calling for a much greater pace of UK defense investment. All right, so I want to show you this article. Let's get right into this from the BBC. Here we go. Ministers urge government to increase defense spending to 2.5% of GDP. Two ministers have publicly urged the government to increase defense spending to above 2.5% of national income. Anne-Marie Trevelyan and Tom Tugendhat said the UK needed to lead the way and invest at a much greater pace. Their article posted on LinkedIn follows criticism of this week's budget and for failing to boost defense spending. Delivering the budget, Chancellor Jeremy Hunt said spending was above 2%, NATO's target, and would rise to 2.5% as soon as economic conditions allow. So obviously economic conditions are not very good right now. I think the UK, was it the UK that slipped into a recession? I can't remember. I believe Germany did and Japan, but I'm not sure if the UK did. The UK might be in recession right now. But Ms. Trevelyan, a foreign officer, office minister, and Mr. Tugendhat, the security minister, said the global risk posed by countries like Russia and China meant there was no time for delay. The sad truth is that the world is no longer benign, meaning like gentle or kind. They said in the article published on Saturday. So the world is going crazy, basically, and we're at a very high potential for war once again throughout the world. Protecting ourselves requires investment, and effective investment means that our industrial complex must grow and strengthen at much greater pace than at present. We cannot turn on the complex platforms and weapons which ensure military advantage overnight. We must start the growth now, invest at pace to support our allies, and stay ahead of our adversaries. So, yeah, it's just like a spigot, like a water spigot. They can't just turn it on and the water will start flowing. They have to slowly turn it on and the water will slowly flow and then get more and more massive over time. And when it comes to defense, they can't just start producing tons of missiles and ammunition. It's going to take time to set up operations, to get these plants built, and to get people to work into them and all that kind of stuff. These operations are not easy to set up and it takes time. So they're saying we need to get prepared now for a potential war on the horizon. How much do NATO members spend on defense? So it says here the two ministers also praise former Defense Secretary Ben Wallace and former Prime Minister Boris Johnson for making inroads in boosting defense spending. Ministers often lobby the chancellor before budgets, sometimes publicly, but it is unusual for them to speak out afterwards. It is understood that both ministers remain fully supportive of Mr. Hunt and government policy to reach 2.5% of gross domestic product as soon as possible. But they wanted to stress the importance of hitting the target quickly. So they want to get there as soon as they can, get to 2.5% of GDP for defense spending. The House of Commons spending watchdog on Friday that the gap between the MOD's budget and the cost of UK's desired military capabilities has risen to 16.9 billion, the largest deficit ever, despite an injection of 46.3 billion over the next 10 years. The Public Accounts Committee has also warned that real deficit could be closer to 29 billion, as some parts of the armed forces only included capabilities that were affordable rather than all those the government had requested. Defense Secretary Grant Shapps wrote to Mr. Hunt in January calling for a commitment to 2.5% in the budget. However, a source close to him said he did not play any part in the LinkedIn article. The piece was not cleared by Downing Street either, but a number 10 source said that this was normal for social media posts. So here's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. He told MPs in January that the government would set out a path towards 2.5%, adding that in the previous spending review that there had been a 24 billion cash increase, the largest sustained increase since the end of the Cold War. So obviously right now they're trying to increase their defense spending. They're not there to 2.5%, but they're trying to lay out a path towards 2.5%, which for many countries like the UK is a very large percentage of GDP. It's very hard for them to do that. They have to find ways to cut costs in order to increase defense spending. But obviously here, many countries in Europe are starting to increase their defense spending. I just did a video on another country. I can't remember which one it was. They were talking about increasing their defense spending too. So many European countries are starting to get the idea here that there's a potential war that's going to break out. And when there is a war that breaks out between like Russia and the West, most of this fighting is going to happen in Europe once again. Okay, and there's also a lot of talk that if Donald Trump gets into office here at the end of the year, that he may pull the United States out of NATO, okay, or force many countries to start increasing their defense spending anyway into NATO, because he's come out and warned that if countries do not commit at least 2% to NATO, they would not defend them if they were attacked by Russia or some other terrorist organization or a foreign adversary, okay? So these countries are starting to step up here and have to do what they need to do to make sure they defend themselves. And, should they come under attack or NATO comes under attack and there's a war that breaks out here. So let me know what you think down below. This is obviously worrying, but at the same time, I think it is necessary for countries to do this. So comment below your thoughts. And if you got something out of this video, please smash the like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. We'll see you in the next one.